Todd and Rob in the afternoon.
Hey, afternoon delight.
With Todd and Rob. Oh, yeah.
Rob, I think I timed that just about perfect. We went live at 3 p.m. and 19 seconds. I guess that's the best way to say. So, hey, everybody, welcome to the New Media Show.
Yeah, it's great to be back doing the show. Yeah, Todd.
So
after the Turkey Day extravaganza.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did as I said I was going to. I didn't hardly do anything. I did some work Sunday late, but that was just about it. So I had a great relaxing weekend. Didn't do hardly any shopping whatsoever. I mean, almost zilch. So it really wasn't a thing. And then you went out to Seattle, right?
Yeah, I went out to Seattle too. I was really pulled the plug on doing much of anything with the podcasting stuff for a few days to just be with my father back in Seattle. So actually in Bellevue, but yeah, it was good to be back to Seattle. It's been a while, and lots of things have changed in that part of the country over the last couple of years. So it's interesting what's going on back there. But yeah, there's always stuff bubbling. You know, it's amazing to me. James Cridland still seems to find things going on in the podcasting space, even through a U.S. holiday. So
yep, absolutely.
Keep cranking on it. Yep.
But if everything went right, who knows if it did? And the new Podping stuff is up, and I was bugging Dave about, is there a way I can manually do it through a website? Until my devs are out in Nevada right now. They're in Vegas for the Invent conference from Amazon. Mm-hmm. And so they're all up there hanging out. So I got one dev, and he stayed back that is working on stuff, but everyone is out. So we've all week been like crossing our fingers that nothing would break or fall over, and so far it's been good. But you know, we did make a switch to the show on our live item tag. And we're seeing some activity that we've never seen before come into the show. But I do want to read
on the live side, on the lit side.
And not only that, but actually we're earning money when people actually play the show on apps. So people are actually sending us by the minute, are sending us Satoshi. So we've had about 450,000 Satoshis come in over really the past week, which is a pretty significant number for all things considering. This is still experimental, but some of them were on Boost, and we got some Boost. I'm going to read these because these just give you an idea. It says, from Marcus, hey, I'm currently subscribed to 8 shows in Castamatic. 2 are daily shows, and the other 6 are weekly. That's a total of 16 episodes per week for an average of 2 episodes per show. It must be the daily show skewing the publishing rate average up. So basically, he sent that comment, and 5678 total sats. Dave Jones says, Podping Cloud 2.0 is out of beta, rolling to production today. Lit for all, 10,000 sats. We got actually 10,101 sats. And then Cover T Nerd said, love the show. I've learned a lot about podcasting from you two over the years. 1,000 sats. Steve says, thanks for having Dave and supporting Podcast 2.0. Rob, can you get the other Rob on board? And this was a 33,333 sats boost from Steve.
Okay, yeah.
Adam replied to our talking about Lightning on the last show and says, Lightning fees are paid by the sender. So we got 10,000 sats from Adam. Sir Brian of London said, sats are Bitcoin valued. My system allows automatic conversion of incoming sats to $1, denominating things called an HBD, high back-end dollar. One day when it's more developed, I'll explain this better. And Sir, that was a 1948 boost. Sir Brian of London said, can't do this on Patreon. He says, listening in Israel again. I'm hoping to have Conshack working with my Hive system as an alternative to Albi 2. Very cool. Another 1,948 sats. And then we did get 50,000 sats that I talked about on the last show. But I want to see if I can do this without screwing up the screen. Is that menu? No, that menu. So, Rob, this is what I see come in for boostograms. Okay. And then I've got a list. For those of you watching, I got a list of contributors. It shows the ranking. Papa HD, Steve Wilkinson, Adam Curry, Dave Jones, Mitch D, Marcus Weiss, Sierra Brandon of London. And then I got some stuff. My test sats don't count. Then Adam on some, Cover the Nerd, User Bree Guy, Scott, Bob, and H. And these are where it comes in when we're seeing, let me show it over here. And I'll leave this on the show, but here Bob was doing 5 sats a minute. And it just shows 5 sats a minute. And then someone here was doing 24 sats, 25 sats a minute. So, and then you see the big boost come in. Then another guy, Dave Jones, was doing 27 or 25 sats a minute. So it shows how people are contributing to the show. And I see all these transactions. Oh, we just had one come in. We got Mike Dell via Bodverse. He just sent us 5,000 sats. So he said, boost. And that literally just came in right now as we are watching the show. Yeah. So, and then there's another app, this Conshack app. It's still a little bit, we received 231 total donations. Some of those are by the minute. Some of those were singles. But again, and this one gives me a little bit more detail because I can see which ones come in for the new media show on this particular app and which ones come in for Geek News Central. So new media show is now driving the majority of the donations.
So what's the advantage of doing it per minute? Is that like an automated donation process? Is that what it is?
It is. And basically what is really the indication there is you would assume if someone was listening to the full 90 plus minutes of our last show, we would see 90 transactions per minute. Now, if we only saw 30, a little bit of analysis would say they only listened for 30 minutes and left.
Oh, okay. So it's linked to duration of listen?
That's right. Yep. So every minute the donation is sent.
Well, that's a powerful little connection there.
Oh, it's very powerful. You know, if more people adopt, and then the tools will advance, we'll be able to see, where your retention rate is. And I think we've told this audience enough about it that they're sick of it already. But here's the thing that I've been learning from my audience. And matter of fact, it's what I announced, what I entitled the YouTube description today was I said, podcast listeners need to be educated on podcasting 2.0. And that is a statement that I'm going to have to really get up on, because here's the thing. I had a listener send me a message today, believe it or not, in Mastodon. And he said to me, in the notification, he said, Todd, I have looked at the Fountain podcast app. It is lacking too many features that most podcast players have. So he's a listener of my show. He went over to use the Fountain podcast app, and because it was lacking features, he's opting not to use it. Mm-hmm. So my message now is to these app developers that are starting to build these apps, Cast-O-Matic, Podverse, Fountain. Those are the primary first 3, and there's some others, obviously. You need to have a marketing messaging that's going to anyone that's going to try these apps and explain your mission and the vision and why you should be using this and why this is important in advancing the podcast space. And yes, we know that there's not as many features as Overcast or Pocket Cast, so that I can tell him to go use Fountain, but he went over there and said, "Oh, it's not as good."
Well, and what features really are missing?
Well,
is
I
the
asked.
bigger question.
I
right?
asked that. That was my reply to him. Was I'll read the reply that I said.
Mm-hmm.
I said, please provide them feedback, and you have to understand that they're implementing features that no one else has. And then I said, not sure what's lacking, honestly. Please make a list. So that's what I want him to do, is make a list what's lacking. And I think what maybe is lacking is polish. They're perfectly good podcasting apps, but maybe they don't do some of the stuff exactly the way other apps do, and they just need some polish. And we know this. Again, we're on the fringe, and my tech listeners, I thought, would be able to handle the fringe a little bit more than maybe a business show was trying to handle. And I've spent a lot of time on my personal show going through this, and I was actually showing the same screens I just showed you to my audience on Monday, and 4 or 5 people came back and said, we're moving, we understand what you're seeing now. They had to visualize what I was seeing on my side.
Yeah, they have to get it, right? They have to get
to get it.
What the change is, what the movement is, what the purpose is.
This show has never in its lifetime. Now let me be clear here. In the lifetime of this show
Which is about 11 years.
Has never got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 comments, email or otherwise, ever to the show in 1 week.
In 1 week, yeah. Yeah, I think we've gotten maybe 1 or 2 emails.
1 or 2.
Right.
So people are on these apps, and obviously Adam is responding midstream. He heard something, and he said lightning fees are paid by the sender, when I had a little confusion in the last show.
Right.
And then Sir Brian of London, sats are Bitcoin valued, because we were trying to describe sats. So they were listening during the show, and they responded, and we were probably they were listening later, because it didn't come in while we were watching doing the podcast. And this thing's probably going to go crazy again, because I'm loading the page. Yeah, that wasn't a new boost. It just reloaded the sound when I reloaded the page. But this is what I'm talking about from an interaction standpoint that is unlike anything that we've ever seen before, because they do it right in the app. They don't have to go to email.
Yeah, right. And I don't know how many shows are supporting this. And I'm sure we're one of a fairly small number of shows.
Well,
right
no.
now
It's about 10,000.
10,000 shows are supporting.
Yeah. So
okay.
let me actually.
I hadn't heard a number.
Let me give you the exact number here. I go to this, and then I'll load this stats page up. And to feeds with the value block is 10,622.
That's a good number. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the number right now that have a value block. So that's up about, I think last week, we didn't take a screenshot of this, and we were supposed to, or maybe I did. So let me see if I grabbed a screenshot of this. Let's see if it'll load. Let me look. Oh, yeah. Yes, last week when we did this, there was 10,554 shows that had a value block. So about 70 shows have added it in a week. Feeds with transcripts went from 22,199 to 22,348. So about another 400 shows added transcripts in the last week. Mm-hmm. So these are the type of numbers we get to see on a week-to-week basis. Let's see here. What else was... Anyway, so this is the kind of stuff that, again, I think now what we have to do... And I've been working on a doc Matter of fact, the last 3 days, it's our podcasting 2.0 information sheet
Mm-hmm.
that basically why, history, why, and feature. And, I was, we did a webinar yesterday, and one of the guys on the webinar said, tell me about all these new tags. And I said, we had 4 or 5 people that were just tuning into the webinar. It was early. People started jumping in. And I said, listen, we're not going to get technical here, because everyone that's listening, their eyes are going to glaze over. What we're going to talk about is feature and effect.
Right.
This is the feature. This is the effect. And when I explained the feature of lit and the effect and the potential, the people were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
When I explained the value of credits of host, co-host, guest, and be able to document that and the effect, and so this is the thing we have to do now is feature it, because they don't give just, and Tom Webster said this many, many times, is podcasters now and listeners don't give 2 craps about RSS.
Right. Well, Todd, I think we always knew that was going to disappear from people's concerns. I mean, it's just a matter of, it's a computer-to-computer communication. Why should anybody? And people aren't cut and pasting RSS feeds around anymore.
So we have to do feature and effect and build that. Yeah. So, we opened our skirt pretty big on our last newsletter, things that we've got coming and things that we're working on and talking about this. Because now it's the next, Dave and Adam has spent the last 2 years getting the snowball moving down the hill, and it's picked up steam now. We've got it into a boulder, and now we're going to hit the bottom of the hill pretty soon. And guess what? We got the long trudge climb up to educate podcasters and listeners on the value.
We've always had to do in this medium.
This is not a ball that is going to. It will at some point. Will crest the hill, but we got to climb the hill now and grind through this.
So, do we have contact with the app developers for Fountain at all?
I would not doubt if the Fountain app developer doesn't listen to the show, but if he does, if he doesn't, someone's going to tell him.
Have him on.
Yeah, we could have
him on to give us a demo and really run through it.
It could be. Here's we'll open the door. Cast-O-Matic, Podverse, or Fountain. Any one of you that does a listener app, first one that contacts Todd or Rob will bring you on.
Right.
And
so there's currently 3 apps.
There's more. There's more. And again, I don't want to just. So we have to go to new podcastapps.com.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, we've got different features. We got Podverse, Podfriend, CarrierCaster, Fountain, Cast-O-Matic. Those are probably the 4 majors, or 5.
Mm-hmm.
If there's others, I apologize. There's some that Spink Chats. There's Breeze. So again, it is, and not all these are actually Android or mobile apps. Some of these are Windows based or desktop based. So, but I would say that the ones that I'm aware of personally that are getting the most bang right now is Podverse, CarrierCaster, Fountain, and Cast-O-Matic. So
do we think that it's possible that Marco from Overcast might consider adding some of these features to his app? You think?
I think what will happen, it's a chicken and egg thing, okay? So we're building it, Buzzsprout's building it, RSS.com's building it. A couple other people have added some stuff, announced recently that they're implementing some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then our jobs is to make the podcasters aware. The podcasters then have to make the listeners aware. And then the listeners have to demand this from,
Yeah.
and we have to encourage Marco and others, Pocket Cast and others, to, and maybe some of the stuff will happen in Pocket Cast because they've open sourced some of it. Maybe we'll get some of this from some people submitting code.
Yeah.
And I suspect there are other people building new apps as we speak. But we all know how hard it is. But if we could get Marco to come in,
That would be huge.
and we get full adoption by Pocket Cast, that's 3-6%. Boom, right there. Boom, boom. That would be on board. But again, if we don't, we have to get the numbers up. We have to get. This is just round one. We got to get the cross app stuff going. I've got a list of stuff I'm doing in round one. As soon as we get round one done, matter of fact, I told Mike the other day, I said, let's start working on round two list. What's the round two of stuff we're going to implement so that we can get it into the planning pipeline? Because we got to do design. We have to do documentation. We have to do the marketing. You got to do all these pieces and the education.
Yeah.
So if I roll out 7 new features, we have to be, I can't just roll out 7 and then 2 weeks later roll out 7 more, because I got to spend a month or two just like, hey,
This is something new. This is how it works.
and pound those into the podcaster's head as much as possible. But let's be frank, some podcasters, I'm going to say something, they don't give a shit. So we have to make them understand why the value of this is.
Right. I think a lot of podcasters are just really concerned about what's the easiest thing that I can do that reaches the most potential people.
Right.
Not do what's maybe necessarily the cutting edge that has long-term potential.
Well, but
yeah.
once they start seeing and once they start converting, can you imagine
Yeah.
a small
It's a steamroller that we got to get moving.
But can you imagine a small show that's not hardly get any email, and they convert 100 of their audience to go use one of these apps, and all of a sudden 5 of them, just 5 of those users on a regular basis started sending comments to the show on a weekly basis based upon the commentary? This, for those of you that are building shows, it gets lonely.
Yeah, that's the juice that keeps podcasters energized, is that connection with an audience.
It gets lonely.
I agree with you, Todd. I mean, it's like it's like going somewhere and giving a speech and never hearing any feedback, and having people, give you the impression they're not there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, it's great to see your stats that you have a download, but
but
it's hard to connect that to a human.
That's right. So, and I had a few listeners of my show in the early days that were, Sal hated my guts, but he listened to the show and he would badger me on stuff. He would provide feedback almost every episode. It was almost like Sal had his own segment of the podcast.
Yeah.
So please understand, and I'm just hitting this so hard. I'm just like, I want to bonk.
You've got some serious passion for this.
Well, no, because I understand the value of the engagement.
Right. Yeah.
We're keeping,
especially if you do a live show like we do. I mean, that lit feature is like a godsend.
But most of this came in, Rob, when they listened later, normal podcast style. So
sure,
if we can keep the audience engaged and they don't have to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. This is the this is the key.
This is the magic formula, right?
Okay. If you want to contact Todd or Rob, Todd at blueberry.com, Rob at robgreenlee.com. Well, someone's got to then remember that. Yeah. Someone's got to go.
I've always loved getting feedback from listeners, and especially doing a live show like we do, having the audience members that listen to the live show actually build friendships with other people that listen to the live show, and they wind up communicating to each other but outside of listening to the show.
But they can now do this in the apps. They can have a threaded conversation within the apps when the cross app stuff gets done. All the apps,
as far as on the commenting too,
right?
Pass between platforms, which is another piece of this,
right? And then they'll have conversation amongst themselves within that. They won't talk to me. They're going to talk to the other listener
on an on-demand show. See, that's the magic
That's
formula.
the magic, an on-demand.
Because most of the stuff is typically happening in live shows. But if we can build that conversation between listeners and the on-demand side, that's a game changer.
That's the key. And this is where the game is changing.
Right.
So yes, I'm passionate about this.
Yeah.
Because I see the value. And what's my number as a podcast host? What is my number one goal? My number one goal is to help a podcaster grow their podcast.
Right.
How do you grow that? Because community engagement, building excitement.
Right.
Don't have to be live. Just get some.
And we really need that right now. I mean, things are, on the monetization side, things are pulling back. I don't know if you've seen some of the news, but
Yep.
Things are getting a little bit more serious out there.
But Rob, 97% of the people are not affected by this pullback.
That's right. That's totally right. Yeah. You're talking about the upper 1% of shows.
Right. Those shows that are rely on those sponsors. Guess what?
Big budgets, big expenses. I think that the other thing that we're seeing happen too, and actually it was in Pod News a little bit. It kind of is jumping out to me now. This item that was in Pod News on the 24th about this platform in Vietnam called Phonos had raised $1.8 million to expand into podcasting. And I think, even like 2 or 3 years ago, that number would have been like 5 or 6 million, right?
But it's Vietnam, Rob. 1.8 million is 20 there.
Right. No, I get that. I'm just saying that most of the investments that I'm seeing now in podcasting companies are in the 1 to 2 million range, where I think just a couple of years ago they were like 3 to 4 million. So we've seen, and this is, I think, also part of a movement in the industry of scaling back expenses around podcasting.
Sure.
And people's willingness to invest large dollar amounts in this in a tough economy. And so we're seeing that, I think, happen more and more. So companies are having to be more frugal. They're having to create shows that are more economically produced. Just like the early days of this medium, Todd. And we've been talking about this for a long time. I mean, you and I have scoffed at these productions that have 10 people working on them, and it costs like $50,000 an episode or some crazy amount of money, when it really doesn't have to be that expensive.
No, it doesn't. Now, people hate us when we say that.
Of course they do. And things have changed. There are companies out there that have staffs and teams, and obviously there's a lot more people now with podcasting in their job titles that aren't podcasters, which for most of the life of podcasting wasn't the case. Most people that were working in podcasting were actual podcasters. I mean, we're kind of a rare breed now, actually, you and I, Todd.
I had 267 people apply for our job posting.
Yep.
And 9 of those 267 had anything in their job title that said anything to do with podcasting.
Yeah, and that's tough. Do we hire people that have specific podcasting experience doing it themselves, or do we go after professionals that have just built careers around a certain topic area, like business development or social media or something like that, but have no actual experience in podcasting?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I think that what beyond, those 450,000 Satoshis, it's, I don't know, that might be $50, $60, 70 maybe. I'm not sure what it is. That is, I appreciate every Satoshi that comes in, but that's more than some podcasts will make in a year in any type of advertising.
Right. That's true.
So, I think that there is a huge opportunity here. And for me, it's about it's about how do we help the content creator.
Do you think that over time those Satoshis will actually go up in value per item?
Rob, they're directly tied to the price of Bitcoin.
Right. So as Bitcoin goes up,
the value goes up.
I'm currently buying Bitcoin every week.
Yeah.
But
So the value goes.
Yeah.
It's directly the value that changes every day. But let's quit thinking about the dollar amount. Yes, you'll be able to cash that money, cash those satoshis out into fiat funds. You can put it in your PayPal account or whatever.
yeah, but it's really about the connection with the audience.
It's
is
the
what you're-
connection, and
Right.
now let's just think about it being a token.
Right.
You know, I put $1 in. I put $50 in the the analogy I used the other day was the arcade. I go to the arcade, I put $50 in, I get 500 tokens or 50 tokens. Or I
Right.
get $50 in, I get 50 tokens. Every token I give a show, I kind of know it's $1. But I thought that's really cool. I'm gonna give them 5 tokens. Just think about it as tokens. Don't think about you're getting some tokens for your money, and you're giving tokens to a show to support. And the more
Right.
tokens you give, you're depleting your wallet of tokens or your pocket of tokens.
Right.
And,
So
and instead of getting tickets out of the machine, guess what you're getting? Great content.
right.
Supporting
so let's
great
explain
content.
Todd, let's explain what a token is so people clearly understand what that is. That's a almost like a coin, right? I mean,
Right.
if you want to draw a direct analogy,
Yeah. So
it's-
you go to some arcades, they don't let you put quarters in.
yeah, it's a token. That
You have to go
put
buy
into the machine.
tokens, right?
Right. It's the same
Mo-
concept.
most places now give you a little like thing that looks like a credit card.
Yeah.
And you charge the credit card and you go over and tap that against the machine and it deducts, 5 tokens out of your or 5 coupons or whatever it may be.
Yeah, isn't the name Satoshi a direct mapping of a name to the inventor of Bitcoin, I believe? I think his name was
well, they don't know who for sure was they think.
Yeah, but I thought his name had some correlation to Satoshi. It was
maybe.
And that's where that came from. And for those that don't
It's
understand
Satoshi Nakamoto.
right. So that's a direct relationship based on the name to Bitcoin.
He's the pseudonym for the person or people who helped develop the first Bitcoin software.
Right.
Okay, so
And let's be clear, Bitcoin is not a cryptocurrency. I think that's what I've learned here over the last couple. It's not strictly considered to be a currency. It's actually a store of value, is what it is supposedly. I mean, sure, that value goes up and
Bitcoin's
down.
a type of digital currency in which a record of transaction is maintained. And
Yeah, but you can't actually. I think it has to be run through a currency exchange
Yeah.
in order to be converted into a currency.
yes,
So-
it does.
Right. So it itself actually isn't a currency. But
Yeah.
it can be converted into a currency.
We're going to get the Bitcoin people all pissed off. Let's not even try. Okay, because we're good.
Well, I think it helps people understand what the difference is, because I think that there's been a lot of controversy around the shutdown of
but that
these stable coins, right?
right. They weren't stable.
No, well, that's the takeaway here, is that they weren't Bitcoin.
Right.
So
and
that's the thing.
and Bitcoin's not perfect. I'm not claiming to be perfect. We're not talking about this as an investment. You're buying Bitcoin as an investment. So that's on you. You are at risk just like you buy stock. All right. Okay.
That's totally the analogy, or buying a share of
Right.
gold or something
But-
like that is
but-
the other analogy.
But in regards to this, we don't want to talk about that. We want
Well,
to
that's
talk.
not part of this Satoshi piece, right? I mean,
Right. Well, Bitcoin,
it's-
you convert Bitcoin to Satoshi. That's what you do.
right. So that's like a conversion from a store of value to
Right,
a currency,
Right.
which is what Satoshis are, is a form of currency that can be exchanged.
So again, let's not get too deep into the.
Yeah, but people need to understand what the relationships are to how people think of monetary transactions today.
Here's
Right.
here's the true definition. Satoshi is the smallest denomination of Bitcoin,
Right.
considered a penny, like a penny,
It's a fractional.
equivalent to 100 millionth of a Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Bitcoins can be split into smaller units to facilitate. Let me run out of stuff here. Bitcoins can smaller denominations. Okay. Smaller denominations are needed for smaller transactions. Small denominations make Bitcoin transactions easier to conduct while making them readable by people. For example, if you bought a $100 item with 1 Bitcoin, your charge might ring up to be 0.002100028 Bitcoin or 210,000 Satoshis. So that's the comparison. It's an easier number to understand.
Hey, Todd, I was just thinking, just based on what I'm hearing about Twitter right now and what's going on, I think we may have mentioned this before too, is that they may be heading down towards building a transaction engine around Bitcoin. So,
well, that was already rumored before.
Right.
And if Apple keeps being stupid the way they're talking about recently, then Elon Musk may bring a new mobile phone to market.
There's been rumors about that for a long time.
So don't shake the tail of the beast too much.
Well, and they've got, those satellites up there.
That's right.
They can make those mobile phones work independently of anything else.
Exactly. So, it's, but what I think though, in the long run here, in what our focus is in this show, we've always talked about what's coming, what's happening, what's going on. We've been talking about this podcasting 2.0 stuff for a while because I got a hair up my ass. But Sailor,
always something.
Sailor and me coming out. We cannot remain stagnant.
Yeah, we face criticism for that from powers.
We have to move the football down the field. Yep, we're going to get pushed back a little bit. We may get sacked a few times, but we got to keep moving the football down the field.
I don't think anybody's sacking us yet.
No.
It's just getting people to adopt it.
Right. So right now we're making gains of about not a yard, but about a foot at a time.
That's right. It's still first down and 10.
But so this is why we have to build groundswell. I want podcasters, first of all, saying, why aren't you doing this to all the major apps? And I want them to be so irritated that they're going to tell their audiences, we want this everywhere. Please tell your favorite app provider to get in the game.
Yeah. Right.
I think it's another 2-year grind, at least.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to take probably longer than that, but that's when we're going to start being able to get some. I mean, that would be the time frame that I think we could possibly get into Overcast and then try and get more and more market share adoption.
I guarantee you Marco's watching what's happening here.
I hope so. I've been trying to get him on this show for a while.
Well,
Marco, if you're listening, we'd love to have you come on.
I don't think he's listening to this show. And if you are, hey, Marco, how you doing?
Right. Right.
But I think there are other folks that are talking to other people about a lot of things. So there's lots of moving pieces. This is the thing. We're just
like Adam. Adam's out there, I'm sure.
We're just scratching the surface, and lots of secret conversations are going on too.
Yeah.
And I think that, and I'm privy to a couple of those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of this stuff is, and you have to listen. You got to listen to the Podcasting 2.0 show. You've got to listen to other shows that are talking about this. You got to listen. And if you listen long enough, you go, 1 + 1 = 2, because people talk, even me. So
that's why I'd like to, if Adam, if you're listening to this, I would love to see your Podcast 2.0 podcast get in Apple Podcasts.
Oh, so now you just made no friends there.
I get it, but there's so many people listening over there that he's not reaching.
Well, then someone added it already without permission.
Oh, they did?
Yes, it's over there. And I don't know if they had it taken down or not, but my understanding it is potentially on there.
Okay.
I didn't do it. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why, but if we're trying to get more people to be aware of this, that would be one way to do it.
So,
Yeah.
but again, they're not going to listen until they need to listen, until someone kicks them in the shin and they say, what? And have this, and they're gonna figure out how to manually add that show to their. You know what? It serves them right. They need to understand this. The people that matter, should be listening. But if you're not, choo 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 choo, the train's leaving without you. And, and it's not my sole focus, definitely. We got a lot of things going on. Like, you guys, stuff going on in your company. I got a lot of stuff going on in my company. And it's just one thing of many things that we have to do. It's a changing world, and we have to, again, keep moving the ball forward. As a matter of fact, I worked for the past 2 weeks. I've been thinking about something. And really, I've had I guess I'm going to talk around I had a personal issue that came up that made me go, well, this is dumb. How can I fix that? And I was relying on a third party for something. And I scratched my head for really 2 weeks and not enough showers, I guess, to get something through my head. But finally, it was just like, you think about something long enough, hard enough, you're like, oh. Let's do that.
Right. It's amazing how thoughtful showers can be, right?
Well, and this one didn't come in a shower. It came in a meeting, and someone said something, and it was the right phrase that paid, and it triggered my brain to put all the neurons together and say, okay, here's the business, here's the project plan now. And then, I've thought it up. Now, does it make sense? And is it worth the dev time? And, will it, for better words, am I going to spend 2 months building something and then not make any money off it?
Right.
So,
yeah,
it's again, going back, it's amazing what you can do when you're hyper focused on helping podcasters grow.
Which we all need to be very focused on that.
I don't think very many people are. I think if you can be hyper focused on helping,
but everybody's interested in growing.
They're interested, but what are they really doing?
Right. I mean, are they willing to do what's necessary to grow?
And what are those things that podcasters are going to need to help them grow? Now you can build everything in the world, and you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So
we've learned that.
That's right. Absolutely.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead. So anyway, I've been rambling here. What's in the news that we need to be aware of?
Well, the podcast show in London has announced its return, May 24th through the 25th in London.
Why is that a surprise?
It's not a surprise. It's just a formal announcement that it is definitely coming back, and people should start planning for that. We're getting halfway through, or just part of winter now, and spring is right around the corner. And then also, I saw that there's been some issues with the Samsung podcast platform.
Oh yeah,
causing excess downloads.
Yep.
And from what I hear, that whole situation is being corrected.
Yeah, fix is coming. I actually got a pretty upset email from somebody, but
I mean, everybody likes to see bigger numbers, but they just don't want it to be,
someone was
numbers.
Someone was mad because a certain company was filtering them. Well, little did they know, all of us had to throw that filter in there for a short period of time.
Yeah,
and until they get it fixed.
It was a bug in the platform that was causing that.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, that surge wasn't real, so.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And let's see, what else has been going on? Let me look. I think, did you see this post, this historical post by Adam Curry?
Yes, I did. I did see that.
January 2001.
Mm-hmm.
He did a blog post talking a little bit about the technology that ultimately turned into podcasting. So,
So does he get credit now again of being the founder of podcasting, or is that still going to some bozo?
I think the founder is actually Dave Weiner.
Well,
I'm not sure that this doesn't predate Dave's work.
well, I'm going to tell you,
post-date Dave's work.
Dave Weiner is all in on Mastodon. I've
believe that.
just been seeing nothing, but he's in there posting. It's like the second coming.
Well, if he likes it, then it must be kind of at the cutting edge of his democratization of media.
I think he's found out that, this has got ActivityPub, and some of this other stuff that is, and so, it's got an RSS feed and I can post to it and da-da-da. And, so, yeah, it's an interesting time for sure.
Yes, it is. It is.
Oh, I did get a notification. What was this? Oh, someone favorited my post. I was finding some stuff that Dave was talking about because it was just this whole line of he was going on and on and on and on. And maybe it wasn't on that instance. That's another thing. You don't see everything. You have to follow people on Mastodon. If you don't follow them, you're not just going to happen into a discussion thread.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard something that Twit's doing. Twit started a Mastodon service, and you have to pay to get your Mastodon account over on Twit.
Really?
Mm-hmm. If you want to be on the Mastodon on Twit, it's part of their subscription package.
It's a subscription package. Okay.
Yeah, it's included. So I thought, wow, that's kind of an interesting idea. I wonder how I can put a paywall in front of my Mastodon, because I'm getting lots of requests for people to join because I had to close open membership.
Yeah. Todd, did you see that there was an article put out in Bloomberg by Ashley Carmen talking about the battle over the Podcast Awards supremacy
I didn't see that.
Fight right now? I guess, there's been a lot of, new podcast awards that have started up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Ambies are seen as kind of like the current, kind of candidate to be the Academy Awards of podcasting of sorts right now, until somebody potentially replaces that if one comes about. But I thought it was interesting, as you look at more and more of the awards start popping up around the world.
Was my awards talked about at all?
I didn't see
of course not.
That many awards mentioned. I think it covered a lot of the awards that were very kind of niche to certain parts of the industry, which doesn't seem make a lot of sense to me that you would, start a podcast awards about a certain small part of the industry, or a certain group in the industry, and think that that's going to be your Academy Awards of podcasting. It needs to be, an awards that covers the whole industry.
Right.
But that's an interesting kind of a connection. I think that, but yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that the writers really know the full scope of, Ashley, I'm not sure I think she's focused on the awards, I guess, that are in her world, maybe in her worldview. Right. And that may not currently, I think probably you're reaching out to her, about the podcast awards might be a good thing. So just make sure that she understands that there's one that's been around forever
for a while.
Right. That should be considered too. Right.
So I see Elsie has got a Mastodon, and she's posting stuff about the feed, the YouTube version of the feed, which is curious on Mastodon.
They've started to do live shows.
Oh.
You're lately Rob and Elsie
welcome to the club. I see they hired somebody over there too. Hired some bigwig they brought in.
Yeah.
So they're hiring. So interesting move. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
it's it's kind of funny because all these people got to leave Twitter because can't handle free speech.
Right. Well, it's a threat to democracy,
Well,
free speech.
Rob, there is okay, now you just triggered someone that's listening to the show.
That's why I said it was definitely a trigger.
There's an episode recently of the No Agenda that does this montage. It lasts about 10 minutes of all the news services prior to the election. We're saying there's a threat to democracy. It's a threat, and it's like it's a somebody's talking point that is literally repeated about 500 times by every spokeshole that's in the mainstream media, saying a threat to democracy. It wasn't about Twitter, it was about the election. Threat to democracy, threat to democracy. Everyone's saying that. So now Twitter's now the threat to democracy.
Right.
Here's what you have to be worried about.
Where before it wasn't a threat to democracy, actually, right? Is that the implication? Is that before Elon bought it, it wasn't a threat to democracy?
Right.
I guess.
Right.
Right. So. Right.
Is it a threat to democracy because it's no longer controlled?
Right. Right. Well, I don't think it's safe to say that it isn't controlled. I just think it's controlled from a different pair of glasses.
I had posted something on my Facebook page that and I've lost a few. No, so I posted something to Twitter that I'm, as you are, I'm a very long-term freedom of speech advocate. And I've lost a few Twitter followers because of some comments I've made recently, but the one that triggered people the most, I said, when the government says they will monitor a platform over free speech, you should be terrified to the core. And this is my comment, if COVID taught us anything, we know that the government is often wrong and the free will of discovery and free speech is tantamount to an open society, otherwise tyranny.
Well, Todd, it wasn't that long ago that you and I faced criticism because we had to crack down on a few hate speech podcasts.
But
because we weren't allowing free speech.
But again, I can count on maybe one hand the number of shows I've ever had to remove because of hate speech, maybe two over these years, and it was because the person was saying they literally wanted to kill somebody.
I know, right?
And they were verbalizing by name who they wanted to terminate. Well,
yeah, and to be honest about that was what Alex Jones did too.
And that is not going to fly on my platform.
Right.
Now, luckily, I only had a couple of them were using our stats.
Right.
And I had one show. I actually think we only had one show that was actually hosted with us. Most of the time, it was just on our directory. And usually they were somewhere else. I think I've only had one show in all those years that I've had to pull the plug on because they were, as long as you don't threaten someone, and there's a few other caveats to our terms of service, I'm good to go.
Well, there's laws that have to be enforced around speech.
But just remember, as a private company, I set the terms of service for our service.
Right.
And
it's specified in the
I
the
specify
platform.
that in the platform, what I allow and what I don't allow. And as far as you are free, we don't have to go over this again. We've done it 500 times. You are free to tell lies.
Mm-hmm.
You are free to make up stories.
Right.
You are free to hate, but it will not come without consequence. And your speech is protected by the Supreme Court. But as a private company, I don't have to have your hate on my platform.
Right.
But
there's a lot of people out there now that don't agree with that.
Well, then leave the United States.
Right. Well, I guess it depends if you want to govern our country based on the Constitution, or you want to govern the country in a way that's not part of the Constitution.
and and I even had someone posted on my Facebook page the other day that I was kind of astounded about, because I posted the same post on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
and I truly believe, and this is what we have to be careful of, I may not like what you have to say.
Yeah.
I may not agree.
But just change the station.
And
of sorts,
as long as
right?
as long as I'm not threatening you
Right.
or discriminating upon you,
Mhm.
then
Turn it
as
off.
as much as I don't want to, move on.
I mean,
but
that's always been the option here. I
you
don't
have
know why people don't realize
you,
that.
you
but-
have,
right.
and again, you have the right to have rebuttal.
Yeah,
You're
but
right
Todd,
to. You're right.
what's going on around that is that people are using it as a way to cancel other people's ability to hear that, right?
Right. And
that's the challenge.
Again, what you say can and will have consequences in your personal life and law and everything else. You may, but if you're willing to say it, then
right.
Move forth. And but I think that we've gotten so. I don't want the government putting their thumb on me or my company. I don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to operate and provide a service that allows people to have a voice, a diversity of voices, right, left, up, down, sideways, and in between.
Yeah.
Some people do not like sexual-oriented content. It's on my platform.
Right.
Some people don't like swinging content. It's on my platform. Some people don't like political shows. It's on my platform.
Don't listen to them.
Some people do not like two people drinking a beer. It's on my platform. Some people don't like religious shows. It's on my platform.
Yeah, but it's moved beyond just not listening to them and ignoring them.
I know. I understand.
People are using they're weaponizing it to suppress any discussion about those topics that they agree with.
What individuals do in vocalizing, the government should not be involved with.
Yeah.
If people want to say to a company, I don't think you should be sponsoring that content because of this, that's their right to say that. I have no issue with someone trying to say, or I don't have an issue with someone say you should be banned because you're saying that. I don't have an issue with anyone saying they have the right to do that just as much as the person has the right to say what they're going to say. I don't have an issue with but get the government involved to do that, that's where I have a problem.
Right. And it seems like, Todd, that freedom of speech is a conservative value now, not a democratic.
I thought it was an American value.
That's what I thought too. But it seems like it's not anymore.
It was I don't want to even go down that road, but I thought it was an American value. Because
I think it is
because I have been in countries
in the
where
Constitution.
I have been in countries where you can't say what you can say here.
Yeah, but who speaks more about constitutional values now? It's the conservatives. It's not the liberals or the Democrats. Don't talk about constitutional values as much anymore.
I don't want to go there.
I know, but it's a truth and reality, and it's not really. I think that needs to be talked about because I think that's what's happening, and people that are that like the Constitution and want us to have a country by the Constitution are being considered to be conservatives now.
There is a way to change the Constitution.
It's called the Constitutional Amendment.
That's right. There is ways to change the Constitution. There is a framework for that.
Right. I think it has to be part of the Supreme Court.
I believe, and I am someone that's listening that knows constitutional stuff. I believe to change an amendment takes 3/4 of the states to vote for a change. I think. I'm not positive.
I'm not positive. Yeah.
So if
It
I'm
could be just a Congress thing, right?
no, to make to change the First Amendment is a pretty big deal. I think or the Second Amendment, or Third, or whatever. It has to be ratified or changed by so many states.
Yeah.
So again, my American history is 40 years prior. So, but there is a framework to do that. But what they try to do now is they try to do it through lawyer judgments and that kind of stuff. So I just, we have to be under, I think regardless of what's going on with Twitter and Facebook and everything else, we have to realize that podcasting is pretty special.
It is. And it still has an opportunity to live outside of this polarized world.
Right. Yeah.
But it's more and more getting, pulled into it as everything that happens in society and culture eventually makes it into podcasting.
Yeah.
There's no keeping it out.
I'm just hoping that we all can be rational enough to understand. And maybe we can. Maybe we're beyond that point now of being able to have conversations. I actually told my mom about this. I was somewhere. What day was it? Saturday. It was in a group, and somebody was. And I can't go into the context on the show. I don't want to go too deep. But I heard about 6 or 7 things that were said by an individual, and this group was pretty diverse. That it was men, women, white, black. It was a very diverse group, and we all kind of stopped and kind of did a huh, and I kind of and then I wanted to know. What made you say that? Where did you get this idea? Let's get to the core. And it was an interesting conversation. It was, but what was said astounded me so much that I made the comment on Facebook, and it was in people that read my Facebook will have some contents here. And let me read what I wrote, because you're going to laugh, because you'll understand where I'm coming from. I said, let's see here, let me get here. Aliens have arrived on Earth and have been procreating because I think they are breeding us into stupidity. Some of the things I hear come from people's mouths, making me think I have been abducted and taken to an alternate universe.
I can see where a person might think that. Yeah.
And it was a mixed range of people too, and I wasn't the only one.
I mean, clearly we're in a phase of massive, rapid change, culture change. Yeah.
I'm like, where are you from? If
aliens, it's all the aliens taught. That's what
this show would have to go explicit for me to give the full context of the conversation. Yeah. But it was it blew me away. It really did. So I'm convinced aliens have arrived. And
you never know. There's more information coming out from the government about UFOs, so maybe it's getting trickled out now.
I do not claim to be the smartest tool in the shed by far. Okay, I am not. But I was pretty astounded, and when you have 2 or 3 people give a look.
Todd, we should probably rename this show "Podcasting Conspiracies."
Yeah,
show.
Maybe you're right, but yeah. But we are at risk for doing the live show at Podfest.
At risk?
Yeah, because I am supposed to be on federal jury duty
at the same time
from January 2nd to February 2nd.
What?
Yeah, so I have gotten approved the first part of I have got deferred from the 2nd to the 9th for CES. I have to wait till we get closer. I can't request a deferment until 30 days out. So I have to wait a couple of weeks before I put the deferment in for the 2 days surrounding Podfest. Now, because it's already pre-planned, I'll probably get it.
Right.
But I have to wait till we get closer. So just fair warning. Yeah, I got the notice in the mail to go.
I would imagine that unless you get caught up in a trial that
Yeah.
you can't get out of.
Yeah, but I wanted to make sure that you have to request in advance, or you don't show up. They come looking for you and
Yeah.
escort you to the court,
Right.
and not in a nice way. So
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not
Not
part
to
of it.
serve on the jury, but to go in front of a jury.
Right. And luckily, it's not grand jury duty, which is 90 days. I'm actually on a federal jury pool.
Right.
So, 80 miles away in the winter. So that'll be lovely. That's where the court is.
That's great. Yeah.
So anyway, we've been all over the map with this show today. And is there things that are happening in pod news? I've been skimming pod news, but there've been a few things in there that I saw that were interesting. What was one thing I saw that it piqued my interest? That noise is someone replying to Mastodon. Transistor, I believe, has implemented the ability to insert chapters into timestamps, which is kind of interesting. So if you do your chapters, then it goes into your show notes automatically. So that's an interesting twist. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that there's more experimentation from companies right now around chapters.
Yeah.
I think there is a little bit of a resurgence in that.
Yep.
And I think even the Podcast 2.0 has a chapters
they do
component.
I'm sorry. I got the speaker turned all the way up here.
And I thought it was interesting too. It was a kind of a leading story in Pod News too. The New York Times is sharing its experiments around spatial audio, which is, I think, at the cutting edge of the higher end productions in the podcasting space, is kind of using that advanced audio processing, like Dolby Atmos or a platform called Mach 1. It's creating kind of more sound depth, more kind of feeling of like being there. It's like a presence type of a audio experience. So it's an interesting component of kind of the higher end of podcasting and where the audio productions might be going. And I think we are coming into an era where there's going to be more higher technology applied to audio processing and how we can record content in a lot of different environments and not have to deal with a lot of the noise issues that we've typically had to deal with in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of stuff brewing in that. It includes, some artificial intelligence type of technologies too. And so I think the AI technology stuff is coming into podcasting. It's coming in with, we've talked about it a lot with like the Barometer platform and that kind of stuff. So we're seeing more and more of it. The Descript platform is probably going to have AI capability built into it. So what's happening in the technology sector, it definitely moves into podcasting at some point, but it usually comes in a little bit slower.
Mm-hmm.
And just because the adoption of new things in podcasting tends to be a little slower.
Yeah, it's I think everyone right now, you look at the news, there's not a lot of news. Everyone's got their head down. Of course, from, a couple of weeks prior to Thanksgiving all the way through the new year, a lot of people are out on vacation and, we got a whole bunch of stuff that's almost finally, it's almost ready to come out of the oven, but we're deciding, okay, should we launch this in December or wait to January and pump this all out? So I think a lot of folks are working on a lot of stuff, and I think probably what we'll see is come the new year, a whole slew of announcements of things that people have been, chugging away at. Could very well, be the case as things move forward here. But I don't know. It is an interesting time because it just does feel like stuff is really, really, really slowed down. But I'm not seeing churn though. That's the interesting thing. I've been watching the churn about every 2-3 days. I go in and look to see is, are we starting to see people cancel? I'm not seeing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to, do more follow-up in the new year around, new show growth in the podcasting space and where we're, if we can figure out where we're seeing the growth in the medium as far as new shows. Because I am a little concerned about the growth of new shows right now, and where those might be coming from. And if we're seeing a huge amount of growth right now, or are we seeing a kind of like a pullback where shows aren't being produced as often?
I think for 97% of shows, nothing's changed.
Yeah, I would imagine that's true.
I think the top shows, which are heavily dependent upon advertising, there probably is some change, potentially.
Yeah, I think we heard that there was some big budget cutbacks.
Well, I saw something on Twitter today where NPR is 30 million short or something to that effect.
Well, we had mentioned that, I think it was last week, that what I'm hearing in the space is that it's not that CPMs are dropping, but it's just the number of campaigns.
But there was something posted, I think it was by Ashley. Carmen? It was either on Twitter or someplace I saw where, matter of fact, I think I can find it.
Yeah, I think it was Ashley Carmen from Bloomberg who posted about the NPR story.
Yeah, there was
about possible layoffs and cutbacks in budget.
Yeah, there was where NPR was 30 million short on whatever revenue. I don't know.
Yeah, because sponsors are pulling back on their campaigns. They're not buying as far in the future, and they're not buying as big a campaigns as they were prior. So
another thing, I submitted a tech request to Spotify because we can find the new media show via the link. I can find the new media show via the web, but when I go to the Spotify app, the new media show is nowhere to be found.
That's what I found. That's why I pinged you about that. I was on the airplane flying back, and I did a search in Spotify, and I couldn't find the show.
Didn't find it. Now, I posted, of course, posted something on Twitter. I posted something nice, nothing naughty. I said, Spotify can, and you see, we've seen this before. Spotify continues to have an issue where shows are in their platform, but when you search on the app, they're not found, but you can link to the listing, no issue. Be sure to check your listings. So this has gotten already about 10 DMs, and I haven't checked my DMs here, that people are saying the same thing. They're seeing the same thing, and they feel, at least 2 of them feel, they've been censored.
Yeah, but is that really true if they're only censored in one part of the platform?
I don't think so.
Or is it a bug?
Is it a bug? So anyway, I sent I sent a ticket to them, and there is a place to send a ticket to Spotify when you have an issue. Let me see if I have gotten a response. No, of course not. Maybe probably a couple of weeks before I hear anything. No.
I would think it's more likely it's a bug.
I would hope so.
But I would hate to think that it was
someone flipped a switch on us
on certain shows, right? For whatever reason. But it's hard to, there's no way we can know that.
Yeah, I did play the latest episode on now once you follow it, you can see it in your library on the app.
Yeah, I mean, I clearly found it in the link you sent me.
Right. But once you follow it on the web, you can then go to the app and it's in your library. So it does still show up, but you can't search for it and find it if you're new, which was weird. That's the weird part. So
that is weird.
It is very odd. So
because I would imagine that most of the usage of Spotify is in the
app.
Right? So if you're not able to be found in the app, you're not going to get any audience.
Yeah, unless someone clicks through from your website. But how many people? I don't even have Spotify linked in our outbound at newmediashow.com, so probably need to turn that on.
That's an interesting situation that we discovered there.
Mm-hmm. So the rest of you go out there and do a search in Spotify for your show and see if you can find it. And if you don't find it, then go to your link that your hosting provider has provided for you or that you've received from Spotify and click on that and see if you can find it in the web.
But I would say it's most likely a bug in the system.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I'd hate to think that someone's went in and flipped the switch on us. We haven't been always nice to Spotify in this show.
No, that's true. I'm not always sure that they deserve to be treated nice. That's the,
So, let's, and there's a reason you only have 2 or 3 listeners over there is because now if you all want to have a little fun, just go find the New Media Show and follow it over there. If we get about 1,000 of you to do that, that might be an interesting experiment as well to see what happens. I don't want you necessarily have to listen over there.
Well, Todd, we should go in there and upload our video podcast to them because that's the only way we're getting the video podcast into Spotify is to upload directly to them, right?
Rob?
It's just an idea, Todd.
If you want to open an Anchor account.
I'm just kidding.
Okay. Because
I'm just trying to make a point with us as an example of what the situation is over there.
For those of you that
why we've been disabled in the Spotify
for
app.
those of you that were listening, I was giving Rob a very dirty look. It wasn't dirty. It's like, no way. It's not happening.
Right. So I do. It's going to be interesting. I'm not going to say too much more than this, but there's going to be some interesting things coming from Apple in the near future. So, yeah.
Oh.
Right.
Oh. That's even more interesting.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Oh.
I know you know about them, Todd. So don't tease. But yeah. So I've got some personal changes coming too. So here in the very near future.
You going to work for Apple?
No, I didn't make that connection.
Okay.
Well, I have in the past come close. I'll just say that. So, yeah.
So anyway, I don't know what else we've got to talk about. I was looking through the news myself and digging through and again, it is a little slow that's going on. But yeah. I did find it interesting. It sounds profitable. It's been focusing on podcast subscriptions a lot. And it's no secret. We've been working on the Apple subscription integration. And we've got our testers in there now. It's actually not an intimidating process.
Well, that's part of what I was mentioning about things coming with Apple and
they announced that it was, I can't say the date that they're going to announce, but it's
delegated delivery thing.
We're not delegated delivery. We're not supposed to be using that word anymore.
Well, that's what they originally called it.
Yeah.
But
so
I objected to that phraseology anyway.
Yeah.
Because it was obviously coined from an engineer instead of a marketing person.
So Apple subscriptions is essentially coming and being able to post. And again, we've had our beta testers now, about a week, have been putting up test episodes and some other things.
Yeah. I think it's all good stuff, trying to get.
What it really is what I'm starting to find out is there's a lot of podcasters been sitting on the sidelines thinking about this. We did a call out and said, hey, we need some beta testers. And we're going to limit it to 4 or 5. And we had a number of people come through, and I went and picked the first 5 responses just to be fair. Mm-hmm. And those in the conversations I'm having with these individuals shows they're doing it a whole bunch of different reasons. One show got a very successful podcast. They've been sitting on a whole bunch of stuff for a long, long time, probably 100 episodes worth of stuff that they're going to be focusing on a niche part of their show, and they're going to release those as premium, premium only. They're going to just be subscription only, $5 a month or whatever. I don't even know what he's going to charge. And then one of the other individuals wants to do an ad-free version. So they're going to put out simultaneously to put out a ad-free and a public ad-powered episode. And then we got all the scenarios. The third gal wants to do a where she releases the version subscription a week ahead of the public release. So the subscribers get the episode a week ahead of those that are
getting it free.
For free. So those are the kind of the three, and we didn't even try. We just said, hey, if you're thinking about doing it, and those are really, truly the three Apple subscription models. And you can have a subscription show that still can put out periodically a teaser free. So in other words, if you go all subscription, you still can, on a periodic basis, release a public episode that would basically be an advertisement or maybe a segment or something like that to try to get, because some of these folks said, we're just going to sell it from the website. We don't need Apple's help. You know, there's a whole bunch of scenarios, but I'm pretty impressed with I guess for a better word, the thoughtology that podcasters are using, and they really thought it through on how they want to deliver these shows for a fee. And I think it's pretty exciting.
Todd, do you think there's a possibility that, and the reason I raise this is, you know, in tough economic times, subscriptions in the history have struggled a little bit, right? People have backed off on their subscriptions, typically if there's income issues. And then simultaneously in tough economy, companies pull back on advertising. And then we were just talking about this third method, which is kind of a play off a donation with the Satoshis, right?
Yep.
But there's no reason why Satoshis couldn't be utilized pretty much in the same way that a subscription for a fixed amount is today. Do we think that ultimately subscriptions, because one of the things currently with subscriptions is that I guess you can build community around that, right? It's possible, like through a Patreon or whatever, but does it create that same kind of community dynamic?
I don't know. I don't think so.
That the Satoshis create.
When someone subscribes to your show on Apple, you don't know who they are. You just get a payment. Right.
So is Satoshis really the future of subscriptions? Or is it purely going to live in the realm of donation models? It could do both, right?
It could, but again, if you think about...
It's like there's a minimum number of Satoshis that you can donate. Is there any way to enable that? Like
I'm sure someone is building something to that effect. I would have no doubt. But here's, again, that's one angle that you could, one road you could go down, but I think I'd worry about adoption levels this early in the game. I think what people need to think about is, as a podcaster, is this show delivering, or is Rob and Todd delivering value? Yeah. Do you walk out of this show and say, this is going to help my podcast, or this is going to help my business? And if it did, what's that worth?
Yeah, that's that value for value.
That's the value for value method. Whereas when you're asking for the money up front, give me X number of dollars, and
I'll give you access.
And I'll give you access to something that you don't know if it's going to have value for you or not.
Right. So the value for value is you get the value and then you donate, or it's an anticipation of value based on your experience.
That's right.
Being involved in the community and in the content. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like a donation model. Right.
Yeah, it is. But again, I think it's just like listening to some podcasts. Every once in a while, I was driving down the road and I had to stop the show and I had to load notebook because I had to keep my train of thought, and I did a voice dictation to my notes because I didn't want to lose it. I actually looked at the show. I said 18 minutes, 32 seconds.
Yeah.
And I did a voice dictation. Go back and re-listen to 18 minutes and 32 seconds of this particular episode, because we get when stuff is flying in on shows, you get 4 or 5 things that hit you. If you haven't wrote it down, you're gonna be like, wow, what did they say? And so for me now, be honest with you, I'd like to have a place where I could put a marker. I'd like to be able to have the app where I could put a marker as a listener, and especially when I'm driving, have the ability to put a marker on an episode, a segment in an episode that I can go back to as a listener and say, this is, and some of these apps now are having so you can share a segment, but I'm not going to be able to do that driving. I'm going to have to stop, and then, it's going to have to be in post. I'm going to have to go back to that and find it. But I want to be able to put a marker on a spot in a podcast. Because there's something, you get hit once in a while on the head, right? You get hit in the head with an idea from a show, and as many podcasts as I listen to, it's just like you get it's the whack-a-mole. I get smacked in the face 5 times in a day, and there's always that nugget you want to pull out. So, and I'm sure someone says one of these apps already supports that, Todd. You need to go look deeper.
Right.
But let me put a marker in, as a listener.
So, Todd, I wanted to mention too something that I saw. I don't know if you saw the announcement about Spreaker supporting that Magda technology, and that's MAGDA technology. And the exact quote of this is, technology works by transcribing programmatic ads that go through the Spreaker ad marketplace in real time. So what they're doing is they're getting the contextual elements of the ads, where the Barometer folks have been doing the transcription and AI of the content. So this platform is doing it for the ads. They
listened to us, Rob. They took our idea.
Right. And it's a machine learning model for ad categories. So you can basically match the ads up with the show better. So you can kind of see, if you think big picture around like the Barometer platform on the content side. So the content's being analyzed, and now the ads are being analyzed.
Well, I think Spreaker's policing
the ads. So you don't have this situation where ads get into shows that they're inappropriate for.
That's right. And what we've learned, and thank goodness our partner's been pretty responsive, and I've only had one time where I had to call them on a weekend and say, hey, and what it was full transparent. I think I talked about it during the show. It was a hotel chain. They had 6 ads in their hotel chain lineup that they were divvying out programmatically, and the 6th ad was with a casino. So the 5 ads all 6 of them were marked as hotels with no casino conjunction, and the 6th ad had a hotel casino component, and they did not mark the ad gambling, hotel and gambling, because if they had, based upon our agreement, we would have excluded that ad from coming into the platform and getting on a show.
Right.
But we had a listener said, hey, I heard a gambling ad. It was a hotel ad for a basically they had a casino. So really what happens too is where the biggest challenges comes in programmatic is near the end of the month. People have leftover inventory. And they've constrained their content, and all of a sudden they take off a few filters, the buyers do, to try to get the rest of that inventory moved, and then they get through on shows that would normally not be willing to run those ads in that category. So what Spreaker's doing here is something I think is very smart. I think they're policing the ads,
the ad content,
and and I don't know if that was their goal, but if they want,
it appears to be a very focused component of what they're offering here. So obviously, like I said earlier, the other component is doing the exact same thing for the content.
Right. I like the idea of protecting the listener.
Well, it's also protecting the content creator too from getting ads that are
Right. Yeah, getting ads
inappropriate to the
for their
audience
show
that they're trying to reach. Right.
Because in programmatic, sometimes the buyer doesn't flag everything the way they're supposed to.
Right. It's just a better, there's two ways of looking at this, right, Todd? We're over automizing or automating what we do in podcasting, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's still
I think it's because
to be determined.
I think it's because we have pretty thin skin.
Yeah, I think that's driving all of this content moderation stuff that we're seeing today.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. All right, we made it to the end.
It's always an accomplishment. Though I get this this feeling like that it's getting to be rarer and rarer for shows to go beyond like 50 minutes these days. So
that's too bad.
I mean, it would be great to know if we had listeners that were listening all the way to the end.
Well, our stats show that people hang out to about the 96, 97% mark. When I start saying, well, we're just about done, that's when they leave.
That's when they jet, right? They figured it's done. I'm out of here.
But like last show, we said we're done and we went another 15 minutes.
That's right. So it's almost like like one of those movies where everybody leaves right at the end of the movie, and there's always like a little bit of
a bonus. The bonus
content after the credits. Right. So for all those people that stick around in the theater.
Yeah. You guys got the bonus. And I used up all of my 15-minute cushion on the lit tag last time. So I give us an hour and 45, knowing we'll go an hour 30, hour 35.
That's right, because you have to specify the
end time,
the content in the lit tag.
Right. You have to tell how long you're going to go. Okay, I am Todd at blueberry.com. That's blueberry without the E's, because we couldn't afford the E's. They still are $3 million. So, Rob, and at Geek News on Twitter.
Yeah, I can be found on Twitter too, at Rob Greenlee, and you can certainly direct message me over there. And I can also be found on email too. I guess Rob at newmediashow.com is a good one to use. And I think that still works.
Yep.
And I have my own website, robgreenlee.com, and
we do appreciate the Satoshis, because the Rob at newmediashow.com and Todd at newmediashow.com cost us $12 a month. We pay that to Google, so it's just one of those.
So please use it.
But everyone, thanks for being here, and we will be back next Wednesday. Now, here is a little programming information. So that will mean that today is the 30th of November. So on the 7th, we will be here. On the 14th and the 21st, we will not. I am going to go on vacation, real vacation, for 10 days.
Wow, that's something.
Yes, so we will see how that works. But I'll be back.
So did you say the 21st and the 28th?
14th and the 21st.
Oh, 14th and the 21st.
I'll be back on the 28th.
You'll be back on the 28th. Okay.
But then I'm in CES for the 4th. So really, they've got us for 2 more shows this month. That's what's going to be left for this month. And then not until second week of January will I be back, unless I'm on jury duty.
Okay.
And we'll figure out a way to do a show if I end up on jury duty. So.
Yeah, let's try and get the developer for the Fountain app.
Yeah, or one of those new podcast apps to come on. It doesn't have to be Fountain. It's whoever sends us an email first.
Right. That's true.
Yeah, you're in the spigot. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Everyone, thanks for being here. Everyone, take care. We'll see you next time here on the New Media Show. Let's see if I can do this right. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
All right.